Good evening. What I like to do is have us start off taking a couple deep breaths together. Ready? Inhale, hold, and exhale. Inhale, hold, and exhale. It's a great way to prepare for any important meeting, activity, or event. It actually should have relaxed you and get you more focused, and it's certainly going to help me in this presentation. So, how am I doing so far? You like me? What category would you put me in? Friend, foe, neutral, or possible mate? Now, while you're pondering that, I should say, because I have trouble with this sometimes, I'm off the market. Okay, I'm not available. So if you had that uptake on me, ladies or gentlemen, sorry about that. The reason I ask that question is because we make value judgments about people we don't even know. In the first few seconds, we see them. We all do it. We do it subconsciously. We're wired that way. We're actually looking for threats. Our ancestors, many years ago, weren't just looking for the saber-toothed tigers. They were worried about who they encountered and whether they would be friend or foe. That's how they survived, and we carry that with us today. Joseph Ledoux from New York University says that there's no evidence that our brains are hardwired for fear. What he does say is that we have the circuitry that allows us to detect and respond in pre-programmed ways that's modifiable. So what I'd like to talk about tonight is mindfulness and meditation so that you can better modify and regulate your pre-programs to deal with this global digital world in which we find ourselves. The benefit of that is when you get a bad email, you don't have the same reaction as if you saw a saber-toothed tiger. And it's bigger than that. It's not just for those events like that, but it's for devastating events in your lifetime. How do you go about and make sure that you can manage those properly? For me, I had a divorce, and what I found is through mindfulness and meditation, I was better able to make better choices, make better decisions, and found a way to happiness and peacefulness faster than I would have otherwise. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I've been a student of this for some number of years now, and I became very annoying to my friends because once I learned this, I kept telling them about it all the time. And I decided that wasn't the right forum, so I'm glad I have an opportunity to speak with you tonight about it. The best way to understand mindfulness is to understand the circuitry of the brain. There's three parts. The first part is the brain stem. It's the oldest part. It's referred to as reptilian brain, 400 million years ago. It does basic things. It regulates the body, and it also allows or initiates the fight, flight, and freeze response that you see in reptiles. The next area is the limbic system, found in mammals, referenced many times as the emotional part of the brain. This is the part that records every memory of behavior that created both bad and good experiences in your lifetime. It generates our emotions. These two together, the brainstem and the limbic system, are what causes many of our automatic behaviors and impulses that come from trained reactions and instincts from that area of the brain. The prefrontal cortex is the most evolved. It's most evolved in humans, and it's the executive function of the brain. And what it does is have the ability to pause before we take impulsive behavior or actions. It has the ability to calm and regulate the limbic and brainstem areas of the brain. So you're driving your car, and you're supposed to be merging, and the guy or gal cuts in front of you, and if you engage your prefrontal cortex, you rationalize yourself, well, he must be in such a big hurry that he cut me off. And you don't do anything. If you don't engage your prefrontal cortex, you honk your horn, you get all worked up, you flip them off, and maybe you even go into road rage. To be determined. So mindfulness awareness practices, according to Daniel Siegel, is the ability to create a state of activation that allows you to harness the power of the prefrontal cortex in that moment. And so that's very important to be able to do that. It's able to help you better manage your thoughts and your emotions through meditation practices. If you look at long-term meditators, what you find out is they have less emotional reactivity than the rest of us. They don't get worked up like we do. The brainstem and limbic system and prefrontal cortex is what we're going to be talking about tonight and what we're going to try to deal with. What you'll find is that once you learn how to use these things, that you're better able to be reflective versus reflexive. You can take stock in the situation and do the right thing, as opposed to just not. Our best leaders around the world are people who have this skill. Some people call it emotional intelligence. But its ability to manage these things allows you to lead people, allows you to deal with difficult situations, difficult conversations. I think that today we find that we need to employ these things even more so than before because of the world in which we live in. Does this look familiar to anybody? Anybody here in school just got past midterms? Whether you're a parent, whether you're a worker, whether you're a student, the days have gotten longer and more intense. We get more email, more notifications, alerts, messages, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat posts than ever before. If you want, you can operate 24/7, 365. Unfortunately, many people do, and worse are the people that expect you to behave that way. 60 Minutes had a series on it saying that, in fact, that the smartphone and the applications like Facebook have become addictive. And you see people using them all the time. I'm sure you can relate to that. You can see people walking down the street and almost hitting street signs because they're focused on their phone. I almost did it this week, unfortunately. And I'm supposed to be mindful. Worse is the fact we also, in addition to those externalities, we have all that goes on in our lives in general. We have the fact that you didn't get the fraternity or sorority that you wanted to get into, get that job, break up with a girlfriend or boyfriend. I mean, it's tough being human. It's very tough being human. And I like to describe it as that our lives are a continuous succession of ups and downs, twists and turns of agreeable and disagreeable situations. The U.S. Army War College has a term they call VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. They describe it for wartime situations because you don't know what's going to happen next. That's what our lives are like. 2017 is a pretty good example of that. And I'm not talking about the Cubs winning the World Series. So the problem is that we think the world revolves around us. We think the road should be straight and flat. We think it should be simple, certain, predictable. Hey, I'm the star of the movie here, right? That's the problem. Because we want everything to go the way we want, when the world is a windy road, we get stressed out. So it causes our stress, not having things work out the way we expected them to work out. So what happens when that happens is two things. First, if you look at on a macro basis, Harris International did a study and showed that we lose about $300 billion a year in lost productivity because of work-related stress. On an individual basis, Matthew Killingsworth did a study with happiness.com, where he tracks your happiness, found out that 47% of the time you are either distracted or your mind is wandering because of issues going on in your life. 47% of the time. He also found that when your mind wanders, it's typically negative. That you're not very happy when your mind wanders because it's about some other issue. Now, I take exception to that because when I was in business school, one of the professors was noticing that one of the students, happens to be one of the prettiest students in our class, was not in the lecture at all. And he, for whatever reason, decided to say, "So what are you thinking about? You're clearly not listening to my lecture." She said, "Well, I'm having a sexual fantasy." In the middle of the class. that was the end of that class. We couldn't even get back to class because that was it. Yeah. He had to blow the class. So this is a problem. Now, Matthew Killingsworth would tell you that mind wandering is a cause, not a consequence, of unhappiness. And I think that's what we're going to address tonight, is that we have to deal with this unhappiness, because being unhappy is really detrimental to your success and well-being. There have been over 200 studies of 275,000 people that shows that being happy improves every domain of your life. Marriages, your work, your health, your relationships. You know, it's a case where we all have a pursuit of happiness, and we're actually happy people by default. The problem is all the stress we bring in our life makes us unhappy, and that's what we're trying to deal with. And then there's the other point, which is how many people like to be around and work with unhappy people? Anybody? No. So there's a desire to be happy, and what I'm going to propose tonight is one way to do that. This is my definition of mindfulness. Paying attention in the moment in an open, accepting way to what you're experiencing. Paying attention in the moment in an open, accepting way to what you're experiencing. Let's break that down a little bit. Paying attention in the moment. Eckhart Tolle wrote a book called The Power of Now. It's a groundbreaking book at its time. And what he talked about was the fact that you never experience, think, do, feel anything outside the present moment. And you never will. Our lives are based on the present moment. So our focus should be on making the present moment the best we can. Now, the problem we have is we have this thing called the monkey mind, or chatter that comes in our brain from that limbic system that remembers everything that ever happened that was bad to you. Is like that part of the memory is like Velcro for bad things and Teflon for good things. It remembers every single bad thing that ever happened to you, and it's bringing this forth. So it's bringing out guilt, resentment, bitterness, sadness, all these things that cause you to get out of the present moment, that mind wandering. What you've got to realize is you've got to let it go. You can't, those events are done. There's nothing you can learn about them, but now they're done. You should have learned, and now you got to be in the present. You can't take away from the present. And you see this a lot of times with sports psychologists. They say to the players, the football players who miss the catch, they say, forget that you missed the catch, next play. It's always next play. Or the guy who gets his car stuck in the mud, and he beats himself up, I'm an idiot, I got my car stuck in the mud again, I always do this, as opposed to saying, hey, I got my car stuck in the mud, what am I going to do now to get my car stuck out of the mud? Dwelling in the past doesn't help. It takes you away from the present. So your focus should be on the present. The same is true of the future. Anxiety, tension, unease, and fear, they're all there if you want them to be. And they will be. The thing is, they're the future, and they take you away from the present. We try to predict the future, but we never do a very good job of it. It's always worse than what we think it is. I remember my son got a bad grade in one of his classes. I thought he was going to get a bad grade for the class. I thought his GPA was going to go down. I thought he wouldn't get into a good college. I thought he'd get depressed, and then he'd be homeless. Right? That's what our mind does. That's what our mind does. So we've got to, basically, the future will get here, and when it does get here, it's what our actions and attitude are at that moment in time that matters. That's where your focus should be. So, now we know we don't be in the past, we don't want to be in the future, we want to be in the present, but now we're in the present, so now we need what? We need the right mindset. We need a positive mindset. And in my definition of mindfulness, we want to be open, accepting, and learning. We want to be curious. We want to be growing. We want to make the present the best it can be by having a good attitude. As opposed to having a negative mindset. Negative mindset, which could be judging, comparing, controlling, all the negative things that come in. And the problem is that, we compare all the time. It's what we do. It's part of our egoic mind is always comparing. And I can tell you that if you compare against better people than yourselves, you're going to be unhappy. I can tell you if you compare yourself with lesser fortunate people, you will be happy. So if you're going to compare, at least compare with lesser people. But I'm not suggesting you compare in the first place. And I think the problem we have today in our society is that it's much more easy to compare because of social media. Everybody's posting this and that, and you get to see everything everybody's doing everywhere. So Barbara Kahn at the University of Pennsylvania has been studying this, FOMA, fear of missing out for the parents that don't know what FOMA is. And she's done studies that show that basically this is making you unhappy. She gives the example of a person who gets to go to this exotic wedding and is having a great time at the wedding. It's a really unusual and different wedding. He goes back, gets on a computer, finds out that all her friends at the beach that weekend, and she's missing out. She's thinking she's not going to be part of that experience that group creates, and she'll be missing out. So what does that do? It dulls her experience at the wedding. Now, if you asked her to do it all again, what would she do? She'd still go to the wedding. But what she's done is she's taken herself out of the present, not enjoying something that's remarkable because of that comparison. So that's what you have to watch out for. Likewise, we judge all the time. We think we know what's the best thing for us. The problem is we don't always know what the best thing is for us. So take the boy in the neighborhood who gets a horse, and everybody says, "What a lucky boy." Next day, he falls off the horse, breaks his leg. What an unlucky boy. Next day, war breaks out. All able-bodied boys go to war. He stays home. What a lucky boy. We don't know what's good or bad for us. We think we do. You connect the dots later in life. There may be a silver lining if you make it, and no matter what happens to you. So if you get worked up about something that's not what you want, keep this in mind. So here's my mental framework that I'm suggesting that you try to use. It's called getting in the zone. So it's kind of a summary of what I've been talking about. You want to be in the present, not the past or the future. You want to have a positive mindset, not a negative mindset. And that's where you want to operate. Now, you say, well, Barry, you just told me that 47% of the time my mind's wandering. How am I supposed to do this? How am I supposed to stay in the present? My mind keeps going in the future and the past. That's where meditation comes in. Meditation is the concept of being able to actually train your brain to be able to stay in the present. There are many forms of presentation, but the one we're going to talk about tonight actually deals with concentration and how to keep your mind in the present moment. So what we're going to do is, and we're all going to do this, we're going to focus on our breathing. We're going to do a little meditation. We're going to focus on our breathing, and what's going to happen is your mind's going to wander. That's what happens. So our mind will wander, and then we'll notice it's wandering, and then we'll bring our attention back to our breathing. And the cycle will continue. By practicing this daily, you can develop the neurocircuitry in your brain to have better concentration. And I can tell you, I really wish I knew about this when I was younger, because I would have been a much better student, a much better person in life, because it's all this other stuff that gets in our head that causes us to have the problems we have. So this technique is one that you can do, and we're going to do it now. Okay, so if you would, get your feet flat on the floor. You can either close your eyes or you can lower your head looking down at the floor. And again, we'll start off with a couple deep breaths. If you would, inhale in, hold, and exhale. Inhale, hold, and exhale. Now what I want you to do is just breathe normally. Feel yourself relax in your chair. Soften your knees, your stomach, your shoulders, your jaw, the muscles of your face. And now just focus on your breathing. Notice when your in-breath begins, when you hold it, when it ends. And find that place in your body where it's the easiest place to notice your breathing. Is that your nostrils, your chest, your stomach? Okay, you get the idea. That's all it takes. The more you do that, the more you bring your mind, being able to bring it back to your breathing, you'll develop the circuitry in your brain to know, oh, my mind wandered to the present or the future. I need to bring it back to the present. So let me finish with the following. This is life. It's a continuous succession of ups and downs, twists and turns of agreeable and disagreeable situations in your life. Accept that that's what it is. Accept it's not a straight road. Accept that you are not the star of the movie. There are all these other people in the world that actually have other things they want to do too. Try to stay in the present moment when these things happen. Take a couple deep breaths when something happens to you. I strongly suggest that's what you do. Try to understand how to be present so you can best decide what to do and how to behave. If you do that, I think you'll find a path to peacefulness and happiness. Thank you very much for your time.